I want to congratulate you and We the World on the 20th anniversary of 11 days of global unity. Together, you, me, and we can create a better world and have fun doing it.
Thank you, Dr. Jane Goodall, for helping We the World and all our partners to celebrate over 20 years of 11 days of global unity. And thank you for joining us. Welcome to the 11 Days of Global Unity Summit. My name is Birgit Ben-Eli, and I'm the Director of Strategic Engagement and International Outreach for We the World. For today, our host is Subrata Banerjee, and I'm excited that we will be joined by our special guest, Dr. Nabaneeta Rudra, who will be talking about women, the seventh theme of the 11 Days of Global Unity. For the full 11 days schedule, you can register for free by going to 11daysofglobalunity.org. That's the numeral 11. There you will find access to all the 11 days broadcast. You can also visit we.net, take action with the 11 campaigns for change, subscribe to Trans Magazine, and you can support this global work by contributing at we.net/donate. A heartfelt thank you to all of you who made this possible. Before we bring on our speaker, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge some of our incredible partners who we support and collaborate with during the 11 days of global unity and throughout the year. The UN International Day of Peace NGO Committee, Peace Day Philly, the Unite for Peace Coalition, including Unity Earth, the Sign Network, One World, and Hubcast Media, the Awakening World, We the World, May Peace Prevail on Earth International, United Religions Initiative, Pathways to Peace, Global Silent Minute, Children of the Earth, Climate Week, the Deep and Rapid Transformation Convergence, Good News Broadcast in Times Square, and Pace e Bene Nonviolence Campaign. Together, these groups represent millions of people working to achieve global unity and peace. This movement is a living example of what becomes possible when we act from interdependence, compassion, and shared purpose, all working with We the World and the We campaign at we.net. Let's bring in our host, Subrata Banerjee. Subrata Banerjee is an accomplished international development and public policy leader with over 18 years of experience in advancing gender equality, social justice, and systemic reform, serving as an international development and policy advisor at We the World. He has led transformative programs with the European Union and Plan International and provided gender policy guidance to international governments across Asia. He has collaborated with UNDP, UNICEF, UN Women, World Health Organization, UNFPA, and the World Bank, shaping policies that promote women's leadership in parliament, peace building, and climate justice. Recognized for his evidence-based research and advocacy, Subrata has worked to dismantle gender-based violence, influence policy reforms, and strengthen an inclusive system of care worldwide. Thank you so much, Subrata.
Thank you, Birgit, for your kind introduction. And today we have a guest. We have a very good speaker, and we will be listening to her lecture, especially on the area of environment and protection issues, and how the policy of Government of Australia, DFAT division, their policy is working, especially in that particular area, and we'll be listening to her. Dr. Nabaneeta Rudra is an international development professional with over 24 years of experience, extensive experience with a large number of global organizations, as well as consulting agencies, global consulting agencies. And he has strong experience in the WASH environment, as well as climate resilience, climate justice, gender issues, and she has extensive experience in research, especially in the area of gender and environment, as well as livelihood, as well as as well as policy research area. And she has worked with many international organizations like World Bank, ADB, JICA, UN missions, other international organizations, and she led many people in a complex project across diverse range of projects where transformative results has been shown, and at the same time, she has expertise in transformative community-based projects where intervention has become one of the critical area to show up the results for the best interest of the society at large. And she has extensive experience also in regard to nutrition, livelihood, health, sanitation, and hygiene, and also forest fringe communities, worked with forest fringe communities through evidence-driven, system-driven approaches to transform the system, to transform the situation, to transform the the situation of the community people. So today we will have the opportunity to discuss as well as to learn about the thing from Dr. Nabaneeta Rudra. Over to Nabaneeta Rudra. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Subrat, for this long, actually, a long talking about me, introducing me for this. And thank you so much for inviting me for this discussion. Actually, I like to first introduce the gender equality and climate change. We call it as a nexus. Why this is nexus? So just like to introduce that climate change and gender inequality are mutually reinforcing. So when we call mutually reinforcing, that means if one goes up, the other goes up faster or maybe in multiple folds. If we think about our country, which is India, we see that women, girls, and marginalized genders are disproportionately affected by climate impacts due to existing social, economic, and political inequalities. At the same time, when we call it nexus, if we empower women, then we have seen that just by empowering women and promoting gender equality, this, which is in the project, wherever we are doing it, the program and the project enhances the effectiveness of climate response. So if we are investing in empowering women, so climate response is already taken care of. That kind of a nexus. When we talk about India, women in India and specifically in global South, we often see that they are mostly engaged in subsistence agriculture. They are highly vulnerable to climate-related risk, be it erratic monsoon, be it drought, be it flood, or all this leads to food insecurity. However, if you see in our country, which is India, we have only 13% of land, agricultural land, under the name of women. So the ownership of land is very less. And this actually limits their control over agriculture decision and climate resilient farming. So what happens? They are working, 65% of women are working in agriculture, but only 13% have land in their names. So this limits their access to credit, access to crop insurance, access to new innovative irrigation facilities, and also climate smart technologies. So this is actually debarring women to reach the places where they are supposed to be reaching. More so, in rural communities, women are responsible for collecting water, firewood, making food for their family, and also giving the care. This task directly affected by climate disruptions. So, if there is any challenge in for them to actually deliver their task, that also debars them from because of climate change. During disasters, we have seen, and there are studies, that women and girls faces a high risk of displacement, violence, and health risk. Examples are Orissa cyclone, Assam flood, and we have seen that in drought-prone areas, like we are working in Rajasthan, we are working in Maharashtra, Bundelkhand, we have seen that women are walking longer distance to collect water as the groundwater level is declining because of climate change. There is also energy poverty among rural women. They still rely on biomass and firewood, and exposure to those kind of energy is creating indoor air pollution, and that's a health and climate issue as well. So not only that, when we talk about women and when we work with women in the villages, we have seen that gender roles are affecting their ability to adapt to climate change, their ability to build resilience. Traditionally, gender roles limits women's access to education, land ownership, finance, and decision making for all, which is critical for adapting to climate change. When we work and in villages, in remote areas, in forest fringes, we also see that there's a policy gaps in the opportunities. While India's National Action Plan on Climate Change mentions equity, but gender isn't a central component of most of the climate missions. Most of the state action plan on climate change lacks gender desegregated data or targeted gender strategies. So when there is no data, because there is no data, they are not able to develop gender strategies. So by this kind of a landscape, we see that not empowering women is leaving 50% population behind, a significant negative impact on communities' resilience. When I see the Australia's international gender equality strategy, I see that there is a policy integration and strategic commitments. So gender equality is a foundational pillar, a central component across foreign policy, trade, diplomacy, and aids. It foregrounds women's sexual reproductive health rights, addresses gender based violence, and seeks financial inclusion and security for women globally. So, climate objectives are embedded in development projects. What I have seen in Australia's international gender equality strategy, at least 50% of new bilateral and regional investments, which are exceeding Australian dollar 3 million, there is a cap that they must include a climate change objective, raising to 80% by 28 to 29. So this applies across the sector, ensuring investments aligned with partners' country, national determined contributions, and national adaptation plans. When I see the dedicated programs which supports gender and climate nexus, I could see that climate resilient communities initiative. They aim to deliver Australian to $221.9 million from 24. It has started from 2024 and it is to be implemented till 2029. This integrates gender responsive, inclusive climate and disaster resilience programming, particularly in sectors like water, food, nature-based solution, and energy, which is very much important for women. When I see the strategic impact and resilience outcome, I could see that the program level resilience and building internal capacities are at the core. So every program has it. Empowering marginalized actor for adaptation is there in each and every project. It is embedded. So there is also an institutional learning. What I could see that there is an outcome nexus book available. It provides guidance for designing development outcomes that integrates gender equality, climate change, and disability inclusions, ensuring these intersections are addressed across sectors for meaningful impact. So this is actually the policy which is inclusive. So when I see this policy, I could very well say that for them, gender equality is equal to equal rights, responsibilities, and opportunities for all people. When when I see and try to match the policies, because it's not that Government of India do not have a policy, Government of India do have a policy. And when we see that there is a relevance of Australian international development policy in respect of the priorities to India. The DFID's Development Policy 2023-30 identifies gender equality, climate resilience, inclusive, local-led development as core pillars. While India is not a top recipient of DFID funding like Pacific land nations are, DFID supports regional and bilateral cooperations with India. And the areas are climate smart agriculture, women's economic empowerment, disaster reduction and resilience, and science and innovative partnerships. So when we see these things are happening, in fact, in Australia, in other countries, we also see there is a difference. There is a difference in India's National Adaptation Fund for Climate Change. It has begun including gender criteria in project selection. So wherever they are selecting project, gender criteria have become mandatory for Indian projects. There are few examples of gender-aligned work in India, and I would like to talk about little about the gender-aligned work which is happening in India. So Australia-India strategic partnerships, so climate cooperations in energy transition, water management, and resilience planning, which is happening. Gender mainstreaming in programs supported through Australia-India Council is happening. Gender equality and women empowerment initiatives are there. We can see that women entrepreneurs and green livelihoods, specifically for the underserved communities, are under implementation. With Australia-India partnership, there is a promotion of STEM education for girls is also happening. Climate tech in the climate tech fields. We also see that there is a collaboration on early warning systems, climate modeling, and community resilience. So that is again happening. So there is absolutely a collaboration between the Australian policy, Australian thought processes, and what is happening in India. I would also like to talk about women-led some initiatives which are very good and important, and they have done really well. I will like to talk about one case study from Odisha, where women-led mangrove restoration happened. In 2023, the marine conservationist Soumya Ranjan Biswal, they started through the Women Mangrove Initiative under Odisha's Paryavaran Sankarshan Abhiyan. So what they did, they engaged local women who were initially reluctant to lead the mangrove restoration efforts near Puri. But over time, the project gained momentum. From just 5 women, they started with 5 women, a group of 5 women. And then what happened? 25 start participating. So actually, when they start participating, why I am talking about this special case study? Because the approach for this activity was gender transformative. So when they started working, they have seen that only few women are coming, not all. So they started approaching fishermen. So what happened? 7 fishermen came and they started supporting the project. They started advocating on behalf of the project to women. And then actually with that kind of initiative, what happened? 5 women become 25. So the local women collected mangrove seeds during low tides. They germinated them in a fenced nursery bed and then planted them along the coast. The indigenous knowledge which woman has, because as you know, in India, most of the time, the woman who goes to forest, she knows the know-how. She knows the knowledge. She has the knowledge. She knows which tree, which plant grows what time, which herb to be collected at what time. So that helped actually. So that indigenous knowledge helped them, and then they understood that which species they have to grow, where they have to grow, and how they have to grow. So this helped in a way that in 2 years, they have planted about 22,000 saplings, while other accounts, they suggested total reaching to 40,000 to 45,000 saplings. By planting those saplings, they received 250 rupees per day for 4 hours of their work. So that's an advantage to them so far economic advantage is concerned. And they, at the end of the day, this project has actually planted billion trees, 1 billion trees they planted, 1 billion mangrove trees they planted. So this actually activity regenerated mangrove barriers, and they demonstrated that these kind of barriers can shield neighboring villages from cyclone damage. And that is what we have seen in the 2024 cyclone, which was Dana. It was expected to strike near Bhitarkanika, and the mangrove-rich areas of Kendrapada helped to mitigate this impact. So this is what I actually wanted to bring to the table and discuss, Subrata. And over to you if you have any questions, Subrata, to ask. Over to you.
Thank you so much. You have discussed a lot of interesting things today in regard to nexus between gender and climate change. And you have extensively explained how that how it is important, that how it could be complementary with each other, gender and climate. On the reverse side, how the nexus between the gender as well as climate change may affect with each other if we do not take seriously the issues and challenges facing by women within the changing scenario of climatic conditions. As we know that globally, we are facing lots of challenges in regard to environment and protection of environment, conservation of environment. We are talking a lot. Normally, the problem has always been very high, but at the same time, when there is a crisis like war, crisis like violence, conflict situations around the world, it affects added lots of critical problems to the global climatic conditions. Today, I am giving an example. Today, a war between Russia and Ukraine might happen far off places. There is a war between Iran as well as Israel as well as Palestine is happening in different parts of the world in the Middle East. But that doesn't mean that the conditions of the environment, that the conditions and the problems, critical situations of the environment will be, putting into this, into their own national boundaries. So it will be affecting globally. It's going beyond the boundaries, geographical boundaries of the states. So that creates another kind of problems for the humanity at large today. So in that respect, we are still discussing this kind of things. Along with, we also need to focus on that when there is a war, when there is this kind of challenges. War means a huge amount of destruction of environment, both at the air, sea level, and surface level. Everywhere there is a extremely dangerous situations, not only the pollution, but also heat waves. Changing climate is severely changing. I am giving you one example. I'm connected with some people of Ukraine. I was discussing this, how it is changing their climate due to the fallout of this war. They said it's extremely difficult right at the moment because when they experience winter, the winter is not coming. When they experience some other season, summer is not coming. Sometimes summer is coming with lots of rain, and the rain what is coming on these in this particular country is the acid rain, because most of the time Russia is forcing on them bombs and lots of other things during the war situation, and they are facing a lots of things. Children are born in this kind of violence, and children, they are also die during the violence. 3 years back, a children was born when the war was declared, but a few days back, that the same children was died due to the bomb of this of Russia, thrown by Russia. So it's a extremely challenging situation they're facing in many of the parts of the world, including Ukraine. So how to revolve around this kind of things? Environment is certainly extremely important for all of us, but who thinks about it? Who take care about it? Those who are making these bombs and throwing this bomb to other as enemy, do they think that this bomb, this reaction of this bomb and the critical conditions of the bomb will not within binding within the geographical region? It affect America, it affect India, it affect African countries, it affect and Latin American countries, everywhere. So this is one of the critical challenges we are facing. And you have discussed a lot, sir, about the nature-based solutions. You have discussed about DRR, disaster, how disaster risk pose bigger threat to the women in our society and across many countries of the world. Agriculture is one of the critical area that you have mentioned. Only 13% of women, they are holding the land ownership, while more than 65% of women engaged in agricultural labor. So this is extremely important to look into this kind of matter. And this is one kind of not only the exploitation, but this is one kind of violation of human rights at every level, especially when it comes to gender. We see that this is the dominant force in every society. They are dominating all these kind of challenges, and they are forcing this on women. That creates lots of problems, not only for women, but also the family, children, when they are growing up. So this is the thing that we have discussed. I have two things to focus on to just to understand a little more about it, since this kind of issues are highlighting more today in today's world. So I just want to know how far the nature-based solutions help women in regard to resilience to climate change. That is one. And the second is, what are the gaps in public policy of India in comparison to Australia in respect to gender and climate change? Just very briefly, you can explain this. Thank you so much.
Very good question, actually. A very good question, actually, Subrata. Very interesting. So, see, nature-based solutions are always helping. So, we also implement programs and projects. So, we use nature-based solutions only. For example, I would like to take an example of a peri-urban area. So, peri-urban area, now wetlands are disappearing. As you know, there are about 12,000 odd wetlands we have in India, which is actually 18% of our total land. I'm not calculating here the rivers. Well, despite if you do not calculate rivers, only the wetlands, the ponds, and then the wetlands available in India are about 18% of the country's area. Now, most of the wetlands are either they are either they are not functioning, they are defunct, or they are encroached. So because of which there are so many issues which is happening. So whatever you are seeing, the flooding situations, this is because of wetland. Wetlands are disappeared. They are not there to absorb the additional water. So what we are doing, we are using nature-based solution to rejuvenate those wetlands. And everywhere, wherever we are working, be it peri-urban or a rural area, we are empowering women to take action. And everywhere they are doing fantastic job. They have been able to not only restore those wetlands, they are able to also maintain them. So this is actually helping, absolutely helping. So I would like to say that there's a good news about it, that wherever we are mobilizing communities, women are able to do that. Yeah, your next question is you wanted to understand few issues, right? Right? In policy. So there are actually various policies within our country, and there are barriers or gaps. So the first thing which I want to mention here, that in our policies, be it a protected policy to develop protected areas, a plan, or be it a development of a plan for a wetland. There's a method and there's a prescribed method in the guideline that you have to ensure people's participation to develop that plan. So policy guides to go and interact with people, but they don't talk specifically about women, because what happens most of the times, women are the one who visits forest, who visits the fringe areas. So they have the knowledge repository with them, but they are not consulted. The policy is implemented in a way that they are not consulted. If you do not consult them, then the plans which are developed at the bottom level do not include needs of women who are the main user. So that's a big gap what I can see in the policies. Nowhere we are keeping a mandatory section that you have to do this much percentage of consultations with women so as to develop your plan, your process, and then only the fund will flow. So policy is not mandating that. That's a huge, huge gap what I see in policies. This is one. The second, because we do not have much time, I would like to emphasize on one another gap. There is no gender segregated data available, competent data, I would say competent data available based on which the planning process can be actually based. So we are not, in fact, trying to collect data in consultation with women in forest areas, be it forest area or be it any other planning, urban planning or any other kind of planning. Policy is not mandated to collect information from women, and at the same time we do not have data available which is gender segregated. Then how on the earth you think that the plans will be equitably distributed, the plans will be equitable, the plans will be implemented the way it should be? So these are the two gaps I find, Subrata, which point I wanted to mention to you.
Thank you so much for highlighting this kind of concerns. And these are very much interesting and important as well, because you rightly mentioned that the gaps in policy always there, especially the kind of country we are leading in India, especially in comparison to highly developed countries like Australia and some Scandinavian countries of Europe. So they always try to make it sure that the people who are at the most margins of society, they will be contributing into this kind of policy. Not only the participating in the formulation of the policy, but they also contribute to the implementation of the policy for the successful application of this kind of initiatives. So in both cases, we found that in India, we are far lagging far behind from these countries. Still now, most of the policies we have developed, formulated by the government in a closed door meeting. Even the policy when they are making, they are not informing the other political parties, stakeholders, major stakeholders who will be guiding them to how to develop this policy in respect to our constitutional law, guidance, as well as the concerns of the common people, both genders, as well as the most vulnerable communities in India. So this is one of the very much critical area of gaps that we found, and that is why we are not successful in terms of policy and the people's participation in the process of development in actual terms. That is why development is not happening in our country as much as it is expected that we could do. But India, as one of the highly developed and one of the most highly growth countries in the world, they don't have any gaps. They don't have any. We don't have any dearth of resources in any respect, like human resources, like technical resources, like many other resources. We have everything we have. But the problem is that with the political will, we are lacking political will to do this kind of things at the grassroots level for the best interests of the people and to fulfill that social justice for all. So thank you so much for highlighting these challenges that we are facing today. So from now on, I think it will be good. I will be handing over to Birgit for taking over this charge and say if few words in regard to this kind of discussion for our own understanding. Thank you so much. Over to Birgit.
Thank you so much to both of you. This was such an amazing, interesting, and important conversation you both had. But let me just tell you before we close here. So we're promoting the hashtag urgency for action. That's urgency, the number 4, and then action. So hashtag urgency for action. And we are using this in all of our activities. And so again, before we are closing, I would like each of you to ask how you would like to take action. And so what I try to do is with panelists or speakers to look ahead. So what is one change you would like to see in international development policy to do better to integrate gender equality and climate action? And truth be told, I mean, that might be my ignorance. I have never even thought about this nexus before, you know, how important this is. And you also mentioned, and maybe I haven't thought about it before, as you mentioned, there's no data really available. So I would love to hear from you, Nabaneeta, and then from you as well, Subrata.
So actually, as I said, there's a lack of political will in our country. Why? Because we do not have representation. We have only 13 to 15% representation of women in our parliaments, right? So there is a lack of representation. So what I would like to see, but there is one good news that in 2023, there was a law which was passed, which says that but there will be assuring 33% representation. But I would like to see going forward, maybe by 2029 we have 33% representation of women in our parliaments, so that there is a strong political will and we are able to unturn whatever the issues, right, we are discussing about the nexus. So those issues will not be there at that point of time. And then if it happens, then I would like to see that everyone, regardless of gender, class, ability, social status, or whatever the challenges are or intersectionalities are, they must come together to take collective action to rejuvenate our mother nature, because our mother nature has degraded. That is what we are facing, the music of climate change. So they can, everyone should leave behind their own interest. They should work for ensuring fair and equitable access to natural resources to all. So if that happens, then only we can see that we are able to limit the speed of climate change. This is what I actually want to bring forward, actually. Over to you, Brigitte.
Thank you so much, Nabaneeta. Subrata?
Yes, thank you so much. And I think we both of us agree to this kind of points. And I have a few other points I would like to mention. That first of all, as we know that Nabaneeta has already mentioned, that disaggregation of data is extremely important. I was attending one webinar today organized by the UN Women, and they're saying the same thing, that data talks a lot. Data, if we don't have any data, that means you don't have any evidence to suggest how to go about it, how to develop the policy. In most of the countries, still now, not only in developing countries like India, but also in highly developed countries, they don't have the relevant data, disaggregated data in regard to gender equality. So data is extremely important, and in our country, data don't care. Even in no ways, in no sectors, we are not using that levels of data. And whenever the data is available, when you can look into the data, but it is already problematic data, in regard to its authenticity. So authenticity of the data, availability of data, both are important. So today, in last 10 years, the data we have in India are extremely messy and extremely unauthentic. So we can't do anything about it, any kind of research, anything. So whenever there is a need for research data, we need to collect from different foreign sources like World Economic Forum and many other even agencies. So we are not validating, we are not relying on the data produced by the government. That is the one biggest challenges. Second is mass awareness about gender inequality. Most of the cases, we are traditional society, not only in India, but also in many other highly developed countries. So the problem is that awareness is lacking among all of us, that how to go about it, how to think about it, gender equality, how it is important for not only for social development, but for also economic development and social justice, ensuring social justice. This is very, very important. The third is, as we said, that equal representation. So countries like Uganda, Tanzania, and Rwanda, Burundi, they have more than 80% of women representing the parliament, where India is a vast country, comparatively highly developed in comparison to African countries, but we are lacking far beyond, far behind these countries. We have only 13% women representation, but within 13%, only 1 or 2, less than 1% of women are vocal in the parliament, and they raise the issue because most of the women, their voices are suppressed in different ways in different institutions. They don't have any right, they don't have any courage to raise their voice. That is one of the critical area of challenges. Number 3 is women's participation. Women's participation is extremely important, not only the formulation of policy, but also implementation of the policy, extremely lacking at all levels. So that is important that we need to consider this. And the 5th is address deep social structures and power dynamics. Deep social structures relate to traditional values, culture, systems that we have been nurturing, we have been following for many centuries, in which women and young girls suffered a lot without any voice, without any resolution to this kind of problems. So we need to address this through civil society organization, government, and many other organizations. And the third, the last one is power dynamics. So power dynamics is the unequal power relations between men and women. So whenever I organize any kind of trainings for the children, for the students, for the principals of the colleges, so I start with the idea that how you bring this on the table in your own family. So as a male, do you understand this kind of things? Do you respect your wife? Do you respect your your son and daughter equally within the family? This is extremely important. So breaking the silence within the family, start with the family, then you can come to community, then school, then you can large the society. So when you have problems within your own family, it creates a lot of problem to understand the overall situation. Then I start bringing about the challenges and situation facing by the women. And at the end of the training, they said, we understand really what is extremely important, gender equality, not only for discussing in some kind of projects, discussing in some kind of forums and meeting, but also extremely important in our real practical life within our family systems. So this need to be changed as soon as possible so that we can see the change in society in course of time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Subrata. You both brought in such important points, and you know, the lack of data, lack of representation in parliament, gender inequality, and also how to change that. It's not only a one-sided change. It's as you just mentioned, Subrata, it's a change also for men, that they have to have a different awareness, or in general an awareness, and you know, collective action, as you mentioned, Nabaneeta. So you both expressed such important points in this session here, and I think this does not, I know this does not only apply to India to different degrees. We even have this in the so-called developed countries. So we have the same problem. So I like to, so just to conclude here, I like to echo both of your voices. And I think if we are serious about building climate resilience, we must treat gender equality as central and not optional. So my call to action here is very simple: center women's leadership at every level, local, as you mentioned, Subrata and Nabaneeta, to global. Because when women are fully included, I truly believe that our collective ability to adapt, innovate, and create lasting sustainability multiplies. So thank you so much to both of you. And before we finish here, I'd like to mention the We Power campaign. It's about the power of we, millions of us coming together to transform our society. So it prioritizes the common good. And to help us launch the We Power campaign, please go to we.net/WePowerCampaign. Nabaneeta, thank you so much again for this important presentation. You reminded us that the nexus of gender equality and climate is not only critical to reform, but also a powerful key to reform and create transformation. And thank you so much, Subrata, for being the host today and bringing your deep knowledge and experience to this panel as well. Thank you all for watching this and for being part of the 11 Days of Global Unity. To get involved, go to we.net. It's all about we, what we do. Our founder, Rick, he created we in order to go from a me society to a we society. So together we can create a world that works for all. Much love to everyone, also to our audience. And I'm sure we will meet again. And I'm very much looking forward to it. So thank you so much to both of you, and bye.